actually teaching us something. And one of the key pieces that the way we've addressed that in our business is if you can create a commonality of interest, something that engages both sides of that equation. So I, as dad, have a reason to want to learn something about, oh, that's how you create this custom car. I'm interested in cars, so I can have that conversation. And the kids can teach me, and this is how you drive it in the virtual experience, and these are the things that you can do. So from a commonality of interest and an integration that crosses real world and virtual, I love what I heard about what ELF is doing, because they've taken that whole real world reality, that question of would you like to take care of a real gorilla by playing in this experience, is a way that you can engage cross generations so the kids can teach mom and dad, and mom and dad can teach kids about something. So I love that point, and I love the folks that are looking to do that.
John, I'm curious because you're watching this. Your site is primarily geared towards parents, and parents of tweens and teens, correct?
I kind of disagree, because particularly in the context of what we're talking about here, which is tweens and teens, and I think you look at the vast majority of tweens and teens, and the thought of getting mom and dad involved is the most awful thing you could possibly suggest to them, and they will actively seek out things that their parents don't understand. Because we all, and video games particularly are a big part of that now, because it's a pretty easy target for us. Like when you ask a lot of moms what was the last video game you played, a lot of them usually say Centipede for some reason. It's such an unusual one, but it seems to have been memorable. That or Miss Pac-Man, and you're like, you know how long ago that was? That was like 1974, and there was some stuff in the late 70s, and like they've changed a little bit since then. And I think what we're seeing in the interaction space is there's two very distinct types of experience that we're talking about. And I think throughout the kids playing, it was the virtual world stuff, which is a bit more, as a general rule, a bit more wholesome. And then there's the gamey stuff. And I think what's interesting about something like Fusion Ball is it sort of straddles the two, where it's a little more involved than a virtual world like a Club Penguin or a Pixie Hollow type experience. And it embraces things that the kids, I think a lot of kids like Ben 10 because it's a bit rebellious, It's like, it's a 10-year-old boy that can turn into, how many aliens? 10 aliens, right? Yeah. See? I get the name. But I think a lot of it is born out of rebellion. And I think to a large extent, between particularly, games are somewhat rock and roll. It sounds a bit cliche, but it is. They want to play Grand Theft Auto because it's cool, but also because mom really doesn't want them to.
I would agree with you on the, as you move through the higher end of the age group and get into the teen segment, I think you do end up with a different dynamic. And the other place that I would completely agree with you, but I think there's an opportunity, is we've seen in the research we've done with boys in particular, that they make a significant distinction between mom and dad. And that mom to them feels like more the gatekeeper, the protector, and
mom rules just about every household we've talked to. She controls the budget and she controls basically the cultural input of the house. Dad tells stories about stuff that he's done, very often that he shouldn't have.
No doubt. And at that level, that connection actually to boy to dad, there's a little rebellion in dad even that mom is trying to kind of keep separate. And so I think there are distinctions within this between mom and dad, between son, and we say son because our particular market is boy, but when they can go do something together that is a little bit rebellious, and dad can talk about his car experience, and there is a place where I think if you have context, you can do that. And at the same time, as you age into the teen segment, I do think you end up very much more in that divide.
I think there's one other thing that's worth talking about as well when it comes to sort of assumption that parents don't, that there's this real separation between what kids are doing and what parents understand, and that there's this literacy to games particularly that mom and dad are just not okay with at all, but you really are, and you just don't know it. Like, if you're playing, has anyone tried Bejeweled Blitz on Facebook? It came out this week. It's like crack. It's timed Bejeweled, and it's competitive. And it's one of those things that you start playing it and it's free, and it puts you into this